Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Morning, sir.
Morning, sir.
Yesterday we discussed about high altitude respiratory physiology. This is my fourth class apart from practical blood pressure. First two classes we discussed about regulation of respiration. Yesterday we discussed about high altitude and acclimatization and adaptation also. Sorry, accommodation also. Today we will discuss underwater physiology. Some of you might have the experience of scuba diving. So what happens when you go in deep sea, usually not in swimming pool and all? It's the same thing what we discussed yesterday. When we go up, there will be change in the partial pressures. When we go down, again there will be change in the pressure. This pressure is because of the air present on the water and the water pressure. I repeat, when you go in deep to the sea, there will be some pressure exerting on you. It is called as a barometric pressure. This barometric pressure is the pressure of air and water on you. Okay. As for the study, at the seashore level, the pressure which is present is called as barometric pressure, atmospheric pressure. When you go deep in the sea, for every 10 meters, there will be a change of 1 barometric pressure. So change with respect to the change in the barometric pressure, and what are the changes occurs during that one with respect to our body, we will see. Deep sea physiology, out of this topic, some applied aspect is important for your examination point of view, and one instrument, that scuba, is also a 3-mark question for your examination. So some applied diseases and scuba are examination point of view very important. Okay, now when human being, as we descend beneath the sea, the pressure around them increase greatly. Just now I was discussing the same. To keep the lungs from collapsing, air must be supplied at very high pressure to keep them inflated. This is the physiology. This exposes the blood in the lungs also to extremely high alveolar gas pressure, a condition called as hyperbarism. Okay, hyperbarism is a wave of question. Beyond certain limits, these high pressures can cause great alteration in the body physiology and can be lethal also. Just now I was discussing about the barometric pressure. At the sea level, this atmospheric pressure, also called as barometric pressure, is 1. When you go down to the sea level, 33, it is in feet. If you convert the feet into meters, it will be 10 meters, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, like that. So the depth towards the left column and the atmospheric pressure which changes towards the right column. Imagine you can swim in the sea without any aids. You can swim in the sea with the help of scuba. Some people, divers, can go, they can cross 30 meters, 40 meters, 50 meters deep sea level. Submarine people can go beyond that. So when they go down, again each barometric, there will be change in the barometric pressure. Again, with respect to the barometric pressure, there will be change in the body also. Effect. Okay, ignore this one. The same thing with the graph with the liters. It is explained. So the first one, with respect to gases, we will discuss. So with respect to nitrogen oxide, carbon dioxide, we are going to discuss. When we go down, the topic is underwater physiology or deep sea physiology. One applied aspect, nitrogen narcosis. What is this nitrogen narcosis? Basically, the suppression of sensation occurs here. occurs due to breathing the compressed air. See, for example, I told scuba. What is this equipment? Will come to that scuba later. So a couple of cylinder will be there and compressed gas will be there. So when you need to go down, you have to be with some artificial gas, compressed gas. When you breathe that compressed gas, it is little bit leads to some conditions like nitrogen narcosis, what we are discussing. Okay, when the diver remains beneath the sea for an hour or more and is breathing compressed air, the depth at which the first symptoms are mild narcosis appears is about 120 feet. Begins to exhibit cheerfulness and to lose many of his or her cares. Okay, so I requested you people to take some notes while I am giving the lecture. Okay, it is, we'll come to this slide later. Just when you go down with respect to nitrogen narcosis occurs. I would like to give one flow chart. Are you with a pen and a paper with you right now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please.
Yes, sir.
Just one flow chart. Usually I prefer giving some flow charts offline in offline classes. It is tough to maintain the same for my format of teaching online. Okay, first one, due to high barometric pressure, high barometric pressure leads to nitrogen, high barometric pressure in deep sea. First sentence, give a arrow mark. Nitrogen escapes from blood vessels. Nitrogen will be flowing in the circulation. It will be there in the circulation. It escapes from the blood vessels. That leads to arrow mark. As nitrogen is a fat soluble, it dissolves in fat. That leads to nitrogen acts as anesthetic agent. Anesthetic agent. That leads to produces alternate mental state. Alternate mental state. What it means, alternate mental state? The same, alcohol intoxication. When you drink alcohol to the maximum extent, what you are feeling, the same thing will occur here. Produces alternate mental status, in bracket, alcohol intoxication. Okay, that leads to aroma. Nitrogen remains in dissolved form till he or she remains in sea. When you come back, it will come out of that fat and will enter the circulation. Okay, this is the mechanism how the nitrogen act in underwater. Okay, so what are the symptoms here? What are the symptoms? 1 to 3 atmospheric pressure. Just to take down the symptoms of nitrogen narcosis we are discussing. With respect to barometric pressures we are talking. 1 means at the sea level, 2 means 10 meter, 1 to 3 means from 20 to 30 meters. 1 means almost from 0 to 30 meters. There won't be any effect, no effect. 4 to 5 atmospheric pressure, the subject feels jovial, careless, don't understand the seriousness of condition. Same thing happens while you are taking alcohol. Initially there won't be any effect. Next, the same thing, you will not understand what is happening. Next, at 6 atmospheric pressure, barometric pressure, drowsiness. Drowsiness, same in alcohol effect also. At the 7th atmospheric pressure, the individual diver feels weak and fatigue. Weak and fatigue. As his nitrogen enters the muscle, the effect will be there. Okay, at the 8th atmospheric pressure, unable to do skill works. Unable to do skill works. At the 9th atmospheric pressure, unconsciousness. Okay, with respect to the stages, with respect to the nitrogen, first basically mechanism, nitrogen escapes from the blood vessels and enters the fat. So when the divers goes down, it occurs because of breathing compressed air. So with respect to the atmosphere, depth of the sea, I told the symptoms. Okay, now we'll come back to the PPT one more time. At 152, same thing with other format I'm explaining. At 150 to 200 feet, the divers becomes drowsy. I told the same, and I made you people to take the note also regarding this. At 200 to 250 feet, his or her strength decreases significantly. That is, I told at the 7th one. Okay, 7th atmospheric pressure, fatigue and weakness occurs. The diver often becomes too clumsy to perform the work required. Beyond 250 feet, that is 8.5 atmosphere pressure, the diver usually becomes almost useless as a result of nitrogen necrosis if he or she remains at this depth too long, that is unconscious state. Similar to those of alcohol intoxication, and for this reason he has been called ruptures, joys of the deaths. Nitrogen dissolves in the fat substances in neuronal membranes, and because of its physical effect on altering ionic conduction through the membrane, it reduces the neuronal excitability. So I told nitrogen escapes from the blood vessel and enters the fat. So this second point, the fat means the fat will be there in the nervous system. Nitrogen dissolves in the fatty substances in the neuronal membrane, go to the nervous structure. Neuronal membrane will be affected by the nitrogen because of its physical effect on altering ionic conduction. That's it, hampers the action potential. That is the reason he becomes weak, fatigued, and later he can't do the skill work. So this is a step. The next one, that was with respect to nitrogen. Now we'll see what is oxygen poisoning. The extremely high tissue PO2. See, one more time I will explain. Yesterday also I told, when you go to the high altitudes, there will be change in the partial pressure with respect to oxygen, nitrogen. There won't be any change with carbon dioxide and water molecule also. You take carbon dioxide right now, because carbon dioxide is formed, liberated as a end metabolic product, in the body. Okay. This partial pressure, because of the change in the pressure gradient from the atmosphere to the alveoli, to the blood, to the tissue, to the capillary and tissue, yeah, tissue and capillary and veins. As there is a pressure gradient, so oxygen moves from the high pressure gradient to low pressure gradient. Here, the extremely high tissue PO2 that occurs when oxygen is breathed at a high alveolar oxygen pressure can be harmful to many of the body tissue. Okay, because of the pressure. Breathing oxygen at 4 atmosphere pressure of oxygen, the PO2 is equal to 3040 mmHg. You just imagine breathing oxygen at the 4 atmospheric pressure. It's almost 40 meters. 40 means 120 plus feet down. Breathing oxygen, the effect on the body, the partial pressure is equal to 3040 mmH will cause brain seizures followed by coma. In most of people, within half an hour to one hour, he feels brain seizure effect. Okay, the seizures often occurs without warning and likely to deadly to divers submerged beneath the sea. So, in case if it occurs, so it is tough for the survival. Acute oxygen poisoning. So, what are the symptoms? Nausea, vomiting, feeling, muscle twitching, dizziness, disturbance of the vision, irritability, disorientations. These are the symptoms of oxygen poisoning. Acute means immediately when you are exposed to this high partial pressure of oxygen. Exercise greatly increases the diver's susceptibility to oxygen toxicity, causing symptoms to appear much earlier and with a far greater severity than in the resting person. So, exercise, anything, any extra body work is contraindicated. So, this free radical, it is not required for me. Okay. Chronic, if the same thing continues, chronic oxygen poisoning even after 12 hours of only 1 atmosphere oxygen exposure, the lung passageway, congestion, pulmonary edema, and atelectasis caused by the damage to the lining of a bronchi and alveoli begin to develop. Okay. See here, for the chronic oxygen poisoning, the divers need not to be in the depth of the sea, but the duration, the first sentence of this PPT tells, even after about 12 hours of only 1 atmospheric pressure, when you are taking the compressed air. Okay, so damages the lining of bronchi, alveoli begin to develop. The air space of the lung are directly exposed to the high oxygen pressure. Okay, oxygen is delivered to the other body tissue at almost normal PO2, but you will be feeling the high oxygen pressure at the air spaces, but the oxygen is delivered to the other body tissues at the normal PO2 because of the hemoglobin oxygen buffer system. Okay. Now carbon dioxide. The diver has no problem due to carbon dioxide toxicity because the depth alone does not increase the carbon dioxide concentration. I told, as the carbon dioxide is produced in
నేను దానికి మళ్ళీ నీళ్ళు వచ్చింటే దాన్ని పెడదామని అది దానికి
This is the effect of online class. We can see that जिसका mute नहीं है phone, you will be talking. Very simple. You will understand these topics when we will conduct exams offline here, and there won't be any repetition of the classes. The same thing happened with the last year batch also. Immediately after the lockdown, something happened that they attended the final examination in the short period. Just it may happen with you also, almost except CNS and endocrine and special sense, almost we are covering everything. So in 1 month, a couple of months, you will be having a preliminary examination. When you feel there is no time for the revision to read for the first time also, it is very tough to follow. And the first year is very vast. It is a theoretical portion. It is the extended PUC mechanical life is there. Unless until you read the first year subjects, all the three, you can't reproduce. So this much of negligency, it hurts everybody. Okay. So carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide, the partial pressure will not change in the body as it is liberated from the tissues. The depth does not increase the rate of carbon dioxide production in the body. And as long as diver continues to breathe a normal tidal volume and expires carbon dioxide as it is for. The alveolar carbon dioxide pressure will be maintained at the normal level. So there won't be any problem with the carbon dioxide with the divers. Now, carbon dioxide toxicity when it occurs. In some types of rebreathing the apparatus, I repeat, when you expire the expired air contains carbon dioxide. Okay, in case somehow in some types of rebreathing apparatus, the way the mechanism is such a way set up that the carbon dioxide is reutilized with some technology, the carbon dioxide can build up in the dead space air of the apparatus and rebreathed by the divers up to an alveolar carbon dioxide pressure, that is PCO2, of about 80 mmHg, twice that in the normal alveoli. The diver usually tolerates this buildup by increasing the minute respiratory volume a maximum of 10 to 11 folds to compensate from the increased carbon dioxide. Okay, beyond 80 mmHg, alveolar PCO2, the situation becomes intolerable. It's a rare thing. This carbon dioxide toxicity is very rare. Just for knowledge sake, you understand this one. There is no examination point of view this except nitrogen oxide toxicity and carbon dioxide toxicity is not that important, even though you should know. Eventually, the respiratory centers begins to depress, say beyond 80 mmHg of alveolar PCO2. When it increases there, so respiratory centers begins to be depressed. Why? If you recollect the idea, chemical regulation, I told carbon dioxide is a strong stimulant for respiratory centers. Even though the partial pressure of oxygen decreases, it will not affect that one. The receptor concerned for hypoxia, that decreased PO2 are peripheral, and receptor concerned for the increased PCO2 are central chemoreceptors. So whenever PCO2 increases in the body, the respiratory centers are stimulated. If they are continuously stimulated, it goes in the depression phase because of the negative tissue metabolic effect at high PCO2. The diver's respiration then begins to fail rather than compensate. It's because of PCO2. It is a toxicity. When PCO2 increases in the body, it is called as carbon toxicity. When PCO2 occurs, So respiration then begins to fail. In addition to the divers develops the severe respiratory acidosis. So this increased PCO2 level in the body is called as respiratory acidosis and varying degree of lethargy, narcosis, and finally even anesthesia. Okay, we'll come back to the nitrogen. When a person breathes air under high pressure for a long time, the amount of nitrogen dissolved in the body fluids increases. Blood flowing through the pulmonary capillaries become saturated with nitrogen to the same high pressure as that in the alveolar mixture. And over several more hours, enough nitrogen is carried to all the tissues of the body to raise their tissue partial pressure of nitrogen, also to equal PaNO2, that is partial pressure of nitrogen in the breathing air. Just go listen this one. Because nitrogen is not metabolized in the body, it remains dissolved in all the body tissues until the nitrogen pressure in the lungs is decreased back to some lower level, at which the nitrogen can be removed by the reverse respiratory process. This removal often takes hours to occur and is the source of multiple problems, collectively called as decompression sickness. This is not required. This is important for your examination point of view. Just now we heard the word decompression sickness. What you are seeing on the PPT, Bent's disease, compressed air sickness, KCA disease, diverse palsy, paralysis or palsy, and dysbarism. All the other names of decompression sickness. All these are 3-mark question and a Viva question for you. So you have to write the same answer for the Bent's disease. You have to write the same answer for the dysbarism. So what is this? This decompression sickness. If a diver has been beneath the sea for a long time, enough, that the large amount of nitrogen have dissolved in his or body. So the mechanism what it tells, the nitrogen is present in the circulatory system, it comes out of the vessels and it dissolves in the fat. And the diver then suddenly comes back. It is very important sentence. Listen. And the diver then suddenly comes back to the surface of the sea. The sudden coming from the bottom of the sea, it is the reason for this decompression sickness. So in case if the diver slowly comes up, it will not occur. If the diver suddenly comes back to the surface of the sea, significant quantity of nitrogen bubbles can develop. Nitrogen bubbles will develop in the body fluid, either intracellular or can cause minor serious damage almost all area of the body. Okay, leave this PPT. Now, what happens when the divers comes suddenly to the sea level? So this thing, what you heard, the different names, this disease occurs due to the sudden return to the atmospheric pressure. The nitrogen escapes from the tissue at the higher rate. So it is dissolved. It came out of the vessel. It is dissolved in the fat and tissue. So because of the sudden ascent, it is in the faster rate. It is escaping from the tissue. Okay. So these creates bubbles while escaping. So while escaping from the tissue, these nitrogen creates some bubbles. These bubbles travel through the blood vessels and form embolism. Embolism you have heard. Thrombosis is different. Embolism is bubble formation, bubbles in the vascular system, in the circulatory system, called as embolism. So at the faster rate, they will come back to the blood vessels. While they are coming back in the first rate, they form the embolism. When they form the embol. So that's what are the symptoms we get. The first one, pain in the joints. Pain in the joints. Second one, numbness, pricking. Numbness, pricking. Third one, muscle cramp. Fourth one, coronary ischemia. Ischemia means lack of blood supply. Why it occurs? Imagine. Embolism is there. It is traveling in the blood vessels. As the diameter of the blood vessels goes on decreasing, but emboli will remain the same size. In the bigger vessels, there won't be any problem with the circulation. As the diameter decreases, the emboli will occupy the entire diameter length of the blood vessels. So as a result, the blood supply to the further part, it will stop. So it produces ischemia, heart attack with respect to coronary, heart attack, or any part, lack of blood supply is called as ischemia. So it produces coronary ischemia. Then fatigue, unconsciousness, and death also. So this is the mechanism. So this is the same thing with respect to the pressure. It is not required for you. Okay. Same thing. What are the symptoms? Gas bubbles, blocking. The same thing what I told in other PPT. Gas bubbles blocking many blood vessels in different tissues. At first, only the smallest vessels are blocked by minute bubbles, but the bubbles join progressively from the larger. Progressively the larger vessels are affected. Tissue ischemia and sometimes tissue death are the result I told. The symptoms are pain in the joints, in muscles of the legs and the arms, affecting 85 to 90% of those persons who develop decompression sickness. The joint pain is bends. That is the result is called as bends. With respect to CNS, in 5 to 10% of people with decompression sickness, nervous system symptoms occurs ranging from dizziness in about 5% to the paralysis or collapse of and unconsciousness in as many as 3%. Okay, from minor is the dizziness and maximum is paralysis and unconsciousness. The paralysis may be temporary, but in some instances damage is permanent. Okay, it is the end result of ischemia. Imagine each system is having the circulatory system. The emboli will affect the end result is the same. About 2% of people with decompression sickness develop the choke caused by massive number of micro bubbles plugging the capillaries of the lung. This is characterized by serious shortness of breath, often followed by severe pulmonary edema and occasionally death. So how nitrogen, what is the treatment for this one? Nitrogen elimination, decompression. If a diver is brought to the surface slowly, I told in the beginning, it is possible when the diver ascends to the sea level very fast. Then only the nitrogen which is present in tissue at the faster rate, it will form the bubbles. Then these are the complications what you heard so far. If a diver is brought to the surface slowly, enough of the dissolved nitrogen can usually be eliminated by expiration through the lungs to prevent the decompression sickness. Just you listen. Ascending slowly, you can prevent the disease. Ascending slowly. But 2/3 of the total nitrogen is liberated in 1 hour and about 90% is liberated in 6 hours. Decompression table have been prepared by the US Navy. Okay, that details are produced in the decompression sickness. It is not required for you. So this is the step down theory. A diver who has been breathing air and has been on the sea bottom for 60 minutes at a depth of 190 feet is decompressed according to the following schedule. So 10 minutes at 50 feet, this is nothing but slow ascending. 10 minutes at the 50 feet, 17 minutes at the 40 feet, 90 minutes at the 30 feet, 50 minutes at 20 feet, 80 minutes at 10 feet. So for a work period on the bottom of only 1 hour, the total time of decompression is 3 hours. So that is the reason it is been titled clearly that slow ascending will not produce this decompression sickness. One more treatment. So hyperbaric tank decompression. Okay. To put the diver in case, okay, if he is not able to stay for the longer period at the prescribed levels, if he comes down, then this one tank is available. This is called as tank decompression. To put the diver into that, it is a pressurized tank, and then to lower the pressure gradually back to the normal. That tank contains the high pressure. Slowly go on reducing the pressure. The same thing. Manually what it did at the beneath the sea, the same thing on the seashore. So using the essential same time of schedule. I repeat, to put the divers into a pressurized tank and then to lower the pressure gradually back to normal atmospheric pressure. Tank decompression is even more important for treating the people in whom the symptoms of decompression sickness develop, minute or even hours after they have returned to the surface. Whenever they feel the decompression symptoms, the tank can be used. In this case, the diver recompressed, it is called as recompression tank, recompressed immediately to a deeper level. The decompression is carried out over a longer period than the usual decompression period. Okay. Now, saturation of the diving with respect to the hemoglobin is not required. Now, scuba. What is a scuba? Scuba, SCUBA. It is a short form. It is not a term. S for self, C for contain, U for underwater, B for breathing, A for apparatus. So self-contained underwater breathing apparatus is the short term is scuba. So how it is made up of? It is a Viva question and a 3-mark question for you people. One or more tank of compressed air or some other breathing mixture. In this, the machine scuba, this apparatus contains what it contains? One or more tank of compressed air. A first stage reducing wall will be there. If I don't think I am having. It is here. So these are the cylinders. Cylinders are connected. A couple of cylinders. The first stage wall, then the mask with a demand wall. So this is the diagram. This is the explanation. It contains one or, excuse me, sorry. It contains one or more tank, as the diagram tells. First stage reducing wall are for reducing the very high pressure from the tank to the low pressure. Yes. A combination inhalation demand wall and exhalation valve that allows air to pull into the lungs, which is the valve which is present at the mask. Lungs with a slight negative pressure of the breathing and then to be exhaled into the sea at a pressure level slightly positive to the surrounding water pressure. A mask and a tube system with a small dead space. So this is the diagram that explains about the scuba. Scuba diving. The first stage reducing walls reduces the pressure from the tanks so that the air delivered to the mask has a pressure only a few mmHg greater than the surrounding water pressure. It is very important. So I repeat, the first is reducing walls. Reduce the pressure from the tank in such a way that the air delivered to the mask has a pressure only few mmHg greater than the surrounding water pressure. Okay. The breathing mixture does not flow continually into the mask. Anybody, if you are in the experience, you will come to know this explanation. So when you are doing the scuba diving, like here, see this machine is different and this apparatus is different. Nowadays, one more apparatus is available for the scuba diving people. It comes like a helmet-like structure. The wall system is not there. Here we are using two walls, one at the level of the tank, another at the level of the mask. So here what we are supposed to do, my personal experience also scuba diving, when you need to inhale, that time only you have to put it in that one. Okay, you have to. Remaining time, no need of that air. But here in the helmet, nowadays the improved mask, it is like a helmet, like normal inspiration we can do. So this system is not there and this is comfortable, but it is not in the medical book. Okay. The breathing mixture does not flow continuously into the mask. With each inspiration, slightly extra negative pressure in the demand valve of the mask pull the diaphragm of the valve open, and this automatically release air from the tank into the mask to the lung. This is the mechanism how it works. In this way, only the amount of air needed for inhalation enters the mask. That is the specialty of this apparatus. Then on expiration, the air cannot go back into the tank but expire into the sea. So nice bubbles you can see while you are doing scuba diving. So whenever you need to inhale, that time only you have to put that in your mouth and you have to breathe. Okay, then expiration, just if you expire in sea water, it will be, there is no question of entering the carbon dioxide back into the tank. Okay, so in life you experience this scuba apparatus. The most important problem in the use of scuba is the limited amount of the time one can remain beneath the sea surface. Only a few minutes are possible at the 200 feet. Okay, tremendous airflow from the tank is required to wash carbon dioxide out of the lungs. The greater the depth, the greater the airflow in terms of quantity of air per unit that is required, because of the volumes have been compressed to a small size. Okay, so that is all about the scuba. Hyperbaric oxygen therapy. We will not discuss this one now. In oxygen therapy with respect to the hypoxia, we will discuss. Okay, I will waive these the last two PPTs. So out of today's class, narcosis and this decompression sickness and scuba. These are examination point of view very important. So this complex, actually the high altitude and decompression together one class, I made it separate. So instead of one class, I took two different classes, and acclimatization I included in the first class. So this is about deep sea physiology and underwater physiology. So next class I will be dealing with hypoxia and followed with some applied aspect. Okay. So now I would like to give some 5 minutes break for you. There is no time for the discussion, and thank you. Thank you for listening. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.